2021 regular Board of Education meeting for Piqua City Schools. Welcome, everyone. We have, I see, 4 administrators here from our schools. Welcome and thank you. Good to see them. Mr. Hiddle, roll call, please.
Mr. Frazier.
Here.
Mr. Height.
Here.
Mr. Ford.
Here.
Mrs. McMacken. Here. Mr. Bostic.
Here. Okay, would you please join us in standing and for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, first order is approval of the minutes for the December 9th, 2020 Board of Education meeting, the organizational meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. You guys are way ahead today. Okay. And approval of tonight's agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same side? Okay, measure carries. Okay, Upper Valley Career Center Board Report, Mr. Height.
And we do have a couple things. First, at our January meeting, we welcomed Mr. Bostic onto our board to take the other Piqua spot. We're glad to have you.
Well,
And
thank you.
just a couple other things. The skill at the high school, our satellite program has qualified for Skillsusa chapter, and for a first-year program in the middle of the pandemic, that's quite an accomplishment for that district or for that program. So we're pleased to announce that. And the other thing that's kind of neat, the Ohio Department of Commerce has selected Upper Valley Career Center as a state spotlight career technical school for Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day. So we're going to be a pre-engineering student from Piqua and Troy will be featured in this state initiative to focus on bringing girls into engineering. So just a couple of things that are going on at the Career Center.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Height. Hearing of the public, I don't have anything. Okay, thank you. Treasurer's report, Mr. Hiddle.
Good evening, everyone. The first thing on mine is just to mention that the audit has been completed and finalized, and there were no comments or anything that we needed to go over, so we waived our post-audit meeting, and we have a clean audit again for the last fiscal year. So that's good news. CAFR's finished, and it's been submitted to GFOA and to ASBO to do their reviews of the CAFR, and that went off without a hitch. So that's good news for that. And then I gave you a sheet on your tables for the mid-year fiscal review. So, but we're going to talk about revenues, expenses, where we're currently situated, and then some future challenges. When you look at the revenues, the areas that are highlighted in gray, we're coming in, or green, we're coming in ahead of where we were at last year. If they're in orange, we're behind where we were at last year. If you see a number below 50%, it means we're behind in collections, although we usually only collect about 45% in property tax, and then 55% the second half in property tax. So that's about where it normally is. Income taxes are still above where I projected them to be, but below where we expected them to, or below where they were last year. Our grants are pretty much right on target, and our property tax allocation. The issue we have right now is the other operating revenue. You'll see that it's down. We're only at 32%, and the reason behind that is primarily because interest rates are in the tank. We were making pretty good interest rate earnings, and they've dried up pretty much at a zero rate. You know how your own checking accounts are. If you think you're getting interest on them, you almost have to pay them to have your money in the bank. So that's where most of that is loss is coming from. And then you look at, up here, property valuations are back to where they were at before the 2008 crash, so that has stabilized. Income tax revenues, like I had said, they are a little bit behind where we were last year, but they're meeting our expectations for the 5-year forecast. What we have coming up, though, is the State of Ohio Biennial budget is going to be introduced on Monday, and so we should see what happens in there. One thing to note is that we did end up getting the money back, part of it, from the governor's office that was cut for this fiscal year. That was announced last Friday, and I'll talk about that a little later. And then for government spending, we also have federal relief funds, and I'll go into a tab about that here in a second. You look on the sheet, as far as personnel, our expenses go, the first item is the personnel services. You'll see that it's below 50%, so that's good, we're running behind there. It's 47% on retirement and insurance benefits. We're running behind there, but you'll see that it's in the orange, and that's because health insurance went up significantly, as well as the more expenses that we're taking on for doing other corona-related things that we're paying for salaries out of government funds, but the benefits are related to the general fund. And then you look at purchase services, you'll see that it is up significantly, and from the year prior, and a lot of that has to do with our online education that we have to pay for, and then which hopefully we'll be able to reimburse some of that as we move forward. But you'll see it's still below the 50% of expected, so we're still doing well from where I thought we should be. And our supplies are at 61%, which at this time of year is normal because you want to get the supplies here while the kids are here. Are there any questions about this orange and green sheet that you have? One thing to note towards when you get to the bottom, and I highlighted that $1 million number, it's in the orange because you see the year prior where we were at last year versus this year, and you can see that there's been a pretty significant reduction in that fund.
You know, Mr. Hiddle, too, I think what's interesting, that audit report I got, I think I went out in the weeds like page 49 or somewhere around there. You know, it was like 90-some pages.
Yep.
Yeah, so it looked great, though. It really did. I've been on that committee, 4 or 5 years now? So, I mean, you and your staff were doing a great job. Really. There were really nothing, not even little things were hard, you know. Maybe there was a comma missing here, but, you know, nothing, no major at all. So, congratulations. Okay, well, treasurer's agenda here.
I still have a little bit more up here.
Oh, I'm
that I wanna
sorry.
finish up
Okay.
with.
Yeah.
So a few things with where we got some funding from that has kept this year in the black, because that was one of our biggest concerns is when this was happening in March and April and we had to do the May 5-year forecast. It's like, how is this going to work? We received about $169,000 in corona relief funds, so we've used those funds to help for the remote instruction as well as cleaning supplies for the district. The first round of ESSER funds was around $782,000. And we have used that for continuation of operations. So that's being used to help offset salaries for the reductions that we saw from the state of Ohio in revenue. And on Friday, the governor said that we were going to get $160 million of the $300 million in cuts. And so we'll see that on our first payment in February. They're going to do like a catch-up payment to that, and then we'll spread that out over the remainder of the fiscal year. And the other thing that we need to announce is that Ohio is just going to be shy of receiving $2 billion, B with a B, in ESSER 2 funding for K-12 education. So that's a significant injection into the state as far as being able to support districts trying to get students caught up on their education. That's going to be a big challenge. So there's more information to come on that, but just something to be aware of. So one of the things that most people aren't thinking about right now, at least I doubt it, but I do, is we're going to have some issues with inflation in the economy as this goes forward. We're talking about potentially even hyperinflation. the more money we're printing to make all of this happen, the more things are going to be, the expense of those things are going to happen. If we have to change things to $15 an hour, what does that do to the district budget, but let alone everybody else's budget and what things cost? And so we could see a real change in everything from getting something at McDonald's to how much your home sells for. All of that can be changing as we move forward. So it's just something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. We're going to continue to do our best to negotiate our purchase service contracts. We do this all the time. And right now we're working through just the trash contract. So there's always something that we're trying to figure that out with. And continue to monitor the state and the federal level as far as what the next plans are, because those things change, as we know, every single day, and then we have to jump and make it work. So we're doing that right now with vaccines, for example. So it's just always a changing landscape, and we'll try to stay on top of it. All right, that's all, Clint. You guys have any questions?
Yeah. Sorry, Jeremy.
That's all right.
Okay, thank you. Well,
Monthly financial reports, they've been attached. Are there any questions on those? And then tonight, we approve about a little over $7,000 in tuition reimbursement for our teachers, and we have 4 of them moving up column from a bachelor's to master's type of thing. Any questions about those? All right, that's all I have.
okay. Well, we need a motion to get the treasurer's amendment. Well, first would be approval of payroll, Jeremy, correct? Adjustments?
You can just do it all at one at the bottom.
Okay, we'll do it all in one. Oral vote, okay? Or
Yep.
okay, so need a motion for the treasurer's agenda. Recommend also the approval of payroll adjustments as presented. Okay, thank you, Andy. Second, okay. All right, all in favor of the treasurer's agenda vote, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, measure carries. Okay, Mr. Thompson, Superintendent's report.
Thank you. You're actually going to be up first, but I'll just quickly introduce it. Our Business Advisory Council is one of my favorite committees, but it's one of our most important, where business individuals in the community really come together and help work with us and give us some really good guidance in terms of what the workforce is evolving into and what kinds of students they need for their future. And we use that for all of our programming. We are designing courses at the high school. We're redesigning elements of our building, actually, to meet some of those needs, because we think it's that important, and they're really a fantastic group of people to work with. But Clint, you serve on that, and you usually
Right.
give the update, so I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, got some things highlighted from our notes. At our meeting, one really interesting thing to highlight, Michelle Washington from the Ohio Department of Education she joined us in our meeting. And she shared, some interesting highlights, and we, she looked as our presenters, Rob, and some of the other people from the high school were involved. And through the whole meeting, she was absolutely really impressed by everything going on here, from that's actually going on in all these programs. So that was neat. She was there, and she just couldn't say enough good about, wow, you guys are like, we're ahead of the curve, or trying to be. So that's good. One thing that came out of the meeting, too, is Gordy Weiss is retiring from the committee. And anybody that knows Gordy and Piqua, he's a wonderful man. Been very generous with his time and in every way for the schools. So we want to wish Gordy the best and happy retirement for him. Rob actually spoke at the meeting. And Rob, I'm just briefing things here, but he was talking about the new aviation program, police internship, building grounds and maintenance program. So he's constantly, they're looking for expanding programs and giving students a broader horizon, which is always a good thing. Want to congratulate Jason Hawk, superintendent. He is now the superintendent. So we welcomed him. Scott did a report on the Ohio Business Education Leader Awards. And he also did the ACT work keys. And we will have students with National Career Readiness Certification. And Scott was saying we may have 15 to 20 students that will get that, so they will already have that level of training. Scott talked about Lean Six Sigma, which, might provide this training and work-based learning and pre-apprenticeship classes. And, I guess we're having a connection with Hartzell Propeller and Wolpert with aviation. So things are constantly expanding out there. And Scott was talking about computer science courses and computer coding. So, things are really rocking there. So, want to congratulate everybody that's helping us on these. So, Mr. Thompson?
Yep, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
This month, our building feature will be the Piqua High School. Mr. Messick will come and talk a little bit about that. And then, Mr. Messick, while you're there, if you could go ahead and present information on your updated program of studies, I would appreciate that as well.
Absolutely. One thing that I don't think anybody knows, I haven't even talked to Mr. Thompson yet, we were meeting with, I think it was last week, late last week, we were meeting with the Ohio Means Jobs people, and Piqua High School apparently is being brought into the attention of the state meetings with those, with all the things that we are doing, and so that was pretty exciting news. I don't know what that means, but at least they're recognizing us for the work that we're doing and the people that behind all those.
I think it's you and your staff, and I think it's all the other schools feeding you. That system, that whole success bound is coming to life, and you guys are doing a great job. You're just going, they're just going for it and expanding, and it's doing nothing but benefiting the students. It's awesome.
But I think the other thing is we kind of, with the original rollout of the Success Bound, was kind of a top-down look, and we tried to build it that way. But with the coding and all of that, that's coming from these guys working their way up. So that's pretty impressive. So anyway, with that, it's been exciting work. What I want to do, I know this is supposed to be academic achievement, but I wanted to highlight today some of the other activities. One thing that we have learned a lot in this pandemic, and I think we always knew it, but just how important it is for our kids to make connections with each other. The kids that are coming here to school now are coming here because they want to be with their friends and they want to engage in different things. And the biggest part of that is a lot of our clubs and activities that we have. We have a very wide variety, and I kind of want to highlight those. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some possible expansion. We need to become a meeting place for these kids. We want them to have really positive relationships after school, and or even during school and after school. And for them to be here doing those things where we can be with them, it's just a benefit for everybody. So I'm going to kind of highlight those, and I'll talk a little bit about them. If you have questions at the end or questions about some of the groups and how they got started, please chime in. So this is a new one that we started. Miss Drake wrote a grant to start this program. It's called Rocks, Ruling Our Experience, and what it is, it's for young women to learn to be leaders, to be confident. I read a statistic that 2 out of every 3 women that are on the honor roll do not believe that they're smart enough to go to college or to get a job. And that's a confidence thing. And so this is to address those. Some of the neat things that they're doing, obviously they're doing leadership stuff, but one of the things is they're actually going to be bringing someone in to teach them self-defense. So it's just it's a really neat activity. This is our pilot year with it. So we have only one group going through. The hope is that we'll be able to push 3 groups in the following year. So 20 is a group. So we're going to keep working that way. And then the idea is to push that down into the junior highs as well. So we have a whole women's program going through. Our FCCLA, Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, this is connected to Deb Rezebek and Jamie Friend's classes, the cooking classes or home economics classes, I guess. I know I'm not allowed to say that anymore. But That's how we kind of recognize them. They meet after school. They do a lot of programs for the community. They will do fundraisers to donate stuff. But once again, just kids with common interests to be able to get together. We have our science fair. So Mrs. Mosley runs our science fair. And it's actually, this year it's a little bit more difficult because there'll have to be, we're not really sure how the presentation's going to be on. But we have several kids that get involved in our science fair. We also have our SAGA, which is our Gender Alliance, Sexuality and Gender Alliance. They meet every Friday, so if kids can get together, and there's a safe space to discuss important topics. Very well-attended group. We have a Dungeons and Dragons Club. So we actually have 2 sites within our Dungeons and Dragons Club. We have Miss Fernses and Miss Brady will run those. And I don't know much about it, but they like how to play Dungeons and Dragons, but those kids sure as heck enjoy it. And they get there and they meet, and they have like roll a lot of dice and have little characters, and it's, but anyway, it's just a neat things that kids that don't play sports and do all that stuff, it's a place for them to go. Science Olympiad. Obviously, we have a pretty strong Science Olympiad all the way through our district. That's run by Mr. Lytle and also Ms. Fernses. Our National Honor Society, who is run by Mrs. Downs and Mrs. Hoyne. Our NHS has been amazing this year, amazing, and we always think of them as, for academics, but what they've done for this school this year and being able to come up with events and bringing our students together, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal what they've done. And I can't stress enough how important this group has been this year. Our Harry Potter Club. So this is run by Mrs. Hoyne. And it's basically, it's a bunch of kids who enjoy the Harry Potter, but they don't get in there and come in and just read the books or anything like that. But they come in and do little activities. Obviously, you can see they made owl pumpkins. They just did a Dobie's sock drive. And I don't know what Adobe is, but
Isn't that the elf-like character?
I don't know.
I think.
But he needs socks, and he got about 250 pair of socks that went out to our community. So that was really nice. Highlight our yearbook under Mr. Skeens. Our yearbook, probably about 5 years ago, we were trying to find people to do the yearbook. Now we have 2 full classes of kids doing the yearbook. And they do some amazing things. And it's nice to see, because those are the same kids that are in our digital arts classes. And so the skills that they're learning, they're able to turn over and do into the yearbook. Really nice production that they have. And so that's the second part of that slide. It's going to be from the ashes, rise. So that's the kind of the motto. Indian Nation Station, AJ Ganger leads that. We have the kids, they go to all the sporting events, other events. They are doing a couple programs. Hopefully you had an opportunity to see some of them. One of them is PHS Now. They come out and they highlight different activities and things that we're doing in the school. They do a super job with that, interviewing the kids, and just that's shared on their YouTube channel. Also, obviously, they're doing all the sporting events. Really expanded that this year. There's some awesome kids doing awesome things. Art Club, run by Mr. Fashner. Kids, they meet a couple times a month. Obviously, Art Club, you're going to be doing some art. And they're the ones that provided a thank you sign for you over there. Model UN Nations, this was neat. Under the pandemic, they had to do everything virtual. So Mrs. Pace and Ms. Sterrett, kids get in there, read about issues, and they basically they debate different issues that come out, and it's just it's neat because they get an opportunity to meet with a lot of kids outside of Piqua. Student Council, we have, I think I got some picture here. Student Council, obviously, they do a lot with our homecoming. They will also do a lot of them meet with me and discuss issues with school. Mrs. Allen runs them. They do their own fundraisers. and events. A lot of, I mean, all of our groups are doing things to give back to the community. Fall Fest. I believe Mr. Bostic, you were able to come out for that.
I also was at Winterfest, but I saw Joe. I couldn't find you. Everybody was everywhere.
I was right. Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah.
They were having a good time. Yeah.
Amazing
was
event.
awesome.
You want to talk about? We was literally. I went and I just the overall mood of the school. Just it was pretty challenging when we first started. Right around there at the end of the 9 weeks, and we're just we needed a day where we could just get out and laugh and do things. It's amazing what this does in just being in the school environment the way it is right now. There's there's not as much conversation. Obviously, that's the reason why we want these things. And so it was an excellent event. Kids just got out, laughed, did their thing, and it was wonderful. So I literally said, hey, I want to do something to grow out hot dogs. I said this to our PBIS committee, and it turned into that. So we got some pretty good leaders in the building. Winterfest, second version of that. We just had that here recently. Kids got, once again, the same idea, get kids out. We took about half the day after lunch, got the kids out, did a bunch of carnival games, and they got to rotate through a bunch of stations. The UVCC came over and painted the kids the nail. I know there's a special name for it. Manicurists.
Manicure, yeah.
They came over here and did that for the girls. And actually, I ended up getting my own manicure. So that's on out there. So.
And Rob, you know what was the most impressive thing of Fall Fest and Winterfest? You'd think, and it was well timed because of the COVID thing, staying in. But Winterfest, when I came last week, that was awesome because when I drove up, there were no high school kids trying to leave. And I came in, and the kids are going all over the place. They knew where they were going. I didn't. So thank goodness I ran into Mr. Taylor. So, but the mood of the building, the students, they were all into where they were going and having fun. It was great. That was really awesome to see.
Yeah, it was. And there was our service learning class, and Mrs. Downs, once again, she's been a rock star through all this. She's did a lot of planning. Oh, boy, they did a lot to do this. So it was, like I said, I'm very fortunate because I have some amazing leaders in this building. I really do. We have people who just want to take charge and do things. We got the jazz band. They also do we have a jazz band or audio hype that plays for the show choir. And then we have the show choir. You can't see the picture or where, but this is when they were out front singing for the community parade. I think pretty much everybody knows about Piqua's show choir. Winter Guard. So this is connected with our band. Mr. Hines leads that. Mr. Hines also does the jazz band, and Mr. Westfall does the show choir. But with Winter Guard, we just started that, and this actually has junior high kids in there also. It's for to develop the flag corps. Pep band. They've been kind of restricted a little bit, but we still have them playing at basketball games, doing a super job with that. Interact Club. So we have these kids have been. April Watson is running that program. They're the ones that run the blood drive for us, and they also do other community events. Academic Challenge is run by Miss Watson. That actually used to be, the league changed it over. It used to be kind of under the direction of Chip, and Mr. Williams was the one that was doing the coach for it, but now it's kind of kicked over to the principals, and Miss Watson has stepped up. And Skillsusa is a brand new. We are just started this year, and we just got approved actually, I think last week. We have a Skillsusa, so that's connected to the Career Center. I went to Mr. Collins last year and said, Mr. Collins, I want a Skillsusa program in Piqua High School. And he's the one that runs our mechatronics. And Ashley Beck and Jennifer Berkey and Dave Collins all put this together. They do some really, really neat activities, especially with, obviously leadership, but problem solving. It's all about problem solving and working as a group to solve a problem.
And Rock, I asked Jason about that because we got an email, and I guess this allows them now to do state and national competitions and even international.
Yeah.
So that is a big thing. That's neat.
Link leaders, this is for our freshman orientation. They were served an extra duty this year. They were for the kids that returned at semester orientation too. So they went out and took kids around the building. We have our class officers. I'm just going to kind of click through those. Really, until you become a junior, you're really just fundraising for your junior prom. But you have freshmen, you have our sophomore class. And then we have our junior class. A couple kids are missing. Senior class. Now these are the ones that get to do all the fun activities. And then we have our key club through the Kiwanis. I'm going to try to move through them a little bit more. Stop me if you have a question. Nope, I think that was it. So that's kind of where we are. Like I said, I just wanted to highlight these. One thing that we knew coming into this year is that we had to create experiences. We had to make sure that the mood of the school, the culture of the school was very positive. Interacting, the kids got to interact because this is very stressful for them. And like I said, it's been awesome. When we have, you can ask our kids, and I know this isn't going to sound great, but they feel like they can learn English wherever, but they cannot do these things unless they're here. And that was a big draw for our students, is our activities. And like I said, that's why I wanted to make sure we pay attention. We are right now pursuing or looking, I'm meeting with the guy tomorrow, about trying to get an esports group together here to play video games here after school together. So we're kind of just seeing what all that's going to take to do it, because that stuff's pretty expensive, but we're going to see what we can do. All right? Questions for me about Piqua High School before we move on to the other things?
I think it's worth mentioning that a number of our students know they have opportunities to go to other institutions to get their education, but they choose to stay here because of things like show choir and band and other things. They don't want to ever lose out on those opportunities. So the whole Success Bound program that's coming in now is meeting their needs still, because they don't have to really go other places to get those career kind of tech things that they could go elsewhere, and they can still remain here and get active in the programs that they really cherish. So it's becoming a win-win for our students.
I'm glad you touched on the programs and everything, the clubs and stuff, because I think now more than ever, that's more important for the kids, especially their mental health than the academic side. While that's still important, this stuff plays big on their experience.
Right. And there are a couple activities that have been restricted, obviously, because of the pandemic, that some of our clubs or activities we haven't been able to do, obviously, the dances. Some of the things like the virtual format, like I know like History Day and stuff like that, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge to do those things. But so we have to find things to get those kids involved. All right? No more? Good. Now we're going to go to program of studies. So our program of studies is basically pretty much staying the same. It's not a really good year coming into next year, adding a bunch of new things. But we do have a couple changes especially in our math department. We are now offering math modeling. It's a pilot program. We were granted, actually today, we received the news that we are in the pilot. They provide some training for our teacher, but it becomes an Algebra 2 equivalent. So it's more of, for kids, the idea is it's still math, computation, math problem solving, but it's for those kids that aren't necessarily going into, Algebra 2 tends to be more of an engineering or mechanical type fields. This is going to be for kids that are going into, let's say, nursing programs, going into, be a lawyer or whatever. So it's that type of math, but it is recognized as an Algebra 2 equivalent. So we're going to be doing that. We are offering now an advanced geometry class. The reason why we need to offer an advanced geometry is because there used to be algebra as a 7th grader. You can go algebra as a 7th grader and geometry as an 8th grader. That we've changed that, so algebra, they have to take geometry here. So we want to make sure that we have a track to go from algebra, or, as an advanced 8th grader in algebra. So as freshmen, they would have advanced geometry before they go on to advanced algebra 2. So we just needed a little spot in there. So technically, it'll probably only end up being about one section of students. Then we've also changed from we have our stats class. It was an AP stats class. We just changed it to a statistics class, just to see we haven't been able to fill the AP stats. So we decided to go ahead and take the AP off of it just to see if we can get another class size, or be able to fill up a section of that. Then we had our internship program over here, or we called it Work Keys. We're now calling it we're now packaging all of that together as the senior capstone project. All right, and all it simply does is we're able to put all those things together. Instead of having this class, we're just able to package it instead of, assigning 3 kids one class, even though they're all in the same room. I don't know if that makes sense. We just retitled it. And really, that's about it. One thing that we are exploring is in our nursing class, which was really cool today. They were taking blood out of dummies. I didn't even know they could, these. It was pretty cool. Walked in there, and they are going to look at offering an EMT certification within that class. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get it done yet because our instructor has to go through a lot of training, but it's something that she wants to do. So we're working with the Career Center to see the feasibility of that because, once again, it's a need in our area, as we need EMTs. And one thing I do want to, I forgot to mention this, we added corrections into our police force academy because the one thing that happens with the police is that the police internship is you can't become a police officer until you're 21. These kids are coming out at 18. By adding in corrections, that gives them the opportunity to start getting into that field at 18 years old. So that was added in. We just did that last week. So with that, it's pretty much the same old thing. We got a lot going on at Piqua. We didn't want to keep throwing new things at it. We want to be very, when I say that, we want to be very targeted in what programs that we're offering. We don't want to be just willy-nilly throwing things in. We need to make sure that they are going to be needed by our community, and they're going to help our kids get to where they need to be. So there we go.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, I'm out. Thanks.
Thank you. Next would have been Mr. Clark. He's not able to attend tonight. He would have done a review on his, but there are no changes in their programs. They've not added anything or made any additional changes, so we'll approve that later tonight still. Next is Board Appreciation Month, so that's every January, and it's our opportunity to say thanks to each of you for all the support that you give. And any other year, if the state would have said, we want you to change how you do every single thing in your district, from the way you feed kids and transport and educate and everything, we would have laughed at it, but we've done just that this year, and we've done that with your support. You've stayed informed, you've been great supporters of us and the staff, but most importantly, the children of this community. We've been able to stay open the whole time, but we've also given the opportunity for parents to have that home option, so it's very much appreciated. I hear from staff regularly that they're very happy with what we're doing. They're thrilled that we're able to stay open but offer that. I hear from parents as well. So it's because of you and everything that you do to help us. So we want to thank you for that. I will give you a certificate, and then I'll let each school come up and tell you a little bit about what they're doing to appreciate you as well. And I would reiterate again that Mr. Clark's not here, so he'll get you his information to you later. So if you don't hear from him, it's not that he doesn't appreciate you, but he's just not here to give that to you. So I'll start with this, and then maybe we'll start with Mr. Messick, and we'll just work our way down for appreciation. Come up and share.
Thank you, sir.
What you are presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you much. Kelly, you can touch it.
I feel bad. You guys don't need to do things.
Well, we're just that way. Thank you guys very much. I know I just put you through an 18-minute conversation. Is that
Not
what it
the
was?
only ones
21
counting,
minutes.
right?
So anyway, thank
Rob,
you
it
for
was-
listening to me.
It was 20 minutes and 54 seconds.
We didn't have a choice.
Hey, we got so many good things. I got to talk about them. I shared with we have our kids made you guys those. They're like little Indian head. They wanted to make them. They can be either for your coffee or put your coffee mug on, whatever. Put on your desk. It was made with our new our new engraving machine that's down in our mechatronics lab. So pretty cool. So thank you guys very much and everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Washington primary students made the signs that are on the front of your tables. And it was so cute because we were going to make one sign, but then they didn't know who would be able to take the sign home. So they needed to make you each a sign so that you could have your own signs. Also, the adults from Piqua City Schools got you the Winans cups.
Oh,
So
thank you.
very much. Yes, thank you for all you do.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So I don't know if you noticed the screen. It was just scrolling with different arts saying thank you. Amanda Redenbauer, our teacher, and some students at Spring Creek put that together just to say thank you for all that you do. So we kind of went the digital route tonight, but again, we thank you for all that you do. So.
Thank you.
And the students at Piqua Central, we had our ELA reading teachers and writing teachers encourage our students to write you a letter. And I think you'll find some joy, and some of those letters are very insightful and very specific about what you do. So they did some research. So pretty cool thing there too. You also find a frame. We had an entire class make a poster. Once again, it was too cool just to give it to one person. So we took a picture and put it framed for you. But once again, just want to reiterate, thank you for all your support and everything you guys do.
Well, thank you.
You guys.
Thank all of you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ed Team. You are welcome to go if you'd like, unless you want to stay. You're welcome to do that too. Next on my list is the 21-22 school calendar. We have a committee that we use each year. Mr. Ford was on that committee as well. And you might remember last year was the first year we kind of transitioned to the Labor Day to Memorial Day calendar. We talked then that we really wanted to make a commitment to that concept. It wasn't something we wanted to do for 1 year and then go back to a whole different thing and mess up parents' schedules and thinking about how school starts and ends. So sticking with that same theme, there's still a Christmas break. There is a 4-day weekend kind of around Easter where there was the Good Friday and then an extra day off after Sunday in case families want to do something, and then there is the spring break. We continue to meet all of our hours for what we're required to do. In the past, we would always have like 3 or 4 days that we would make up in case we get beyond the 7 days. We actually exceed the number of hours the state requires us to have. So we can actually go 7 calamity days, if you will, before we meet a threshold of all of a sudden not making the required hours. So once we get through those 7 days, then we have to work together to figure out what we're going to do to make that time up. And usually we pick days, but now with the remote learning and everything, if we get beyond 7 days, what we'll do is on the 8th day, 9th day, et cetera, we'll just do a remote day. Kids can stay home, be safe. We wouldn't have to worry about buses and novice drivers and so on being out. But we can still accomplish our hours of time and not have to worry about then making students come after school's out, which is a very complex kind of situation as well. So any questions on the calendar that we're proposing?
Did you feel like, I know this year was special, but did you feel like it worked out well starting after Labor Day and the teachers, all your staff liked
I
it like
only
that?
got positive feedback. I haven't had anybody, it was very different because we were out from March, so we never really got the good feel of it, but even when the calendar came out last year, people were very positive about it.
Way to go, Sean, on the committee.
The teachers are great. I mean, they come up with amazing, ideas, and even though we kind of committed to this time frame, they still have good ideas in terms of how to work around holidays and things like that that are to the advantage of students and parents and families. So I think they have some good ideas. Okay, we'll vote on that in a little bit here. And then just a quick update on vaccines. There's a lot of news out there. I say it could be chaotic, it's very fast, there's a lot of last-minute things. I don't think it's to anybody's fault. I think there's a lot of things happening right now with vaccines. We're currently at 55% of our staff that has signed up for it. We don't have an exact date right now. There's some projections that are out there that could happen. We have partnered with Premier Health, who is already a partner with us, and we believe that they're gonna, do very well with us, and they have a really good opportunity to get the vaccines we need and so on. So I attended a webinar today with them, a town hall, if you will, with a lot of other superintendents that are using them as a partnership. They had a doctor on there that answered a lot of really good questions. They recorded that. We're going to be able to share that out with staff. And I think it's going to go well. I think we're going to end up, with a good system in place. Our school nurses are going to help with it. So we've committed to turning everything that they need. Everything's already submitted. We're just now waiting for the state to get the vaccines to the suppliers so we can set that finalized date and then it can roll out. So I think we're on our way. We're just kind of waiting right now to see when it's all finalized.
I hope, and I know this is probably out of our control, hopefully it's not going to be during the spring break, because I know a lot of people will probably want to get away for a while.
I think it'll be
this year.
sooner than that.
Okay.
The week we're projected would be the week of the 8th of February.
Okay,
It looks
yeah.
like they kind of went with the big school, the big counties, big districts for the first week. Montgomery County, Butler, Franklin.
Mhm.
It looks like they kind of went really big first, and then they'll decide how they'll roll it out after that. So I really want them for our staff, and I'm advocating because we literally have been open every single day this year, and they really have done a fantastic job. Our numbers now are so low. They have been all along. We've been able to really stay open because of the work and effort our staff has done, and I think it's important that we return that and get those vaccinations in place as soon as we possibly can for those that want them. Any questions on that? Okay.
No.
I think I mentioned the last time that we did have the transition from the remote learners, at the semester. Students had that opportunity to come back. Right now, we had 24% of our population out. We're at 16% of them on remote learning. But every building did something to transition the students back. You heard Mr. Messick talk about the students that helped transition. They did great welcomes. Some had many open houses. They made personal phone calls to parents. They matched up those students with students that had already been here. So they did a lot of things to try to get those students back into the groove as much as they can, and there was some really good smooth transitions for that. So I appreciate everything they did for that. The last thing I have is a new program that we talked about at the November board work session. Mr. Bostic brought up an idea of a student representative on the Board of Education, and that position would not be a voting position, but it will be a way for you to have a direct link to a student that would either be a junior or a senior that could represent the entire student voice of K-12. And there's an application that has been developed through some research. You've seen that. And then there's a new board policy that will be presented in our new business. It'll be a really good opportunity for us to make a really direct link, I think, to the student body. So open up if you have any questions from what you've seen, any comments that you want to make about it, because we'll do a first read on that policy under new business.
And is this student going to start in January next year?
Nope, they would actually start the application process in March. It would go through a process. The great thing that I think that will happen is the student's going to really learn some leadership skills. So we didn't want a kid to just serve on the board and not really know what to do. The whole idea is they will have an idea or a concept that they will present to the board and work on throughout the year that will ultimately result in a board vote from you. So they can walk away from the experience with a full opportunity to say, this is what I accomplished as a student voice on the board. Not just I served on it, but I actually got this accomplished for the district. So when they fill out the application, they'll actually write out what their proposal is. They'll say, after talking to students, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I want to do, what I want to propose, how I'll put the whole program together, and then some representation from the board, the principal, the high school, the counselor, myself. We'll go through and we'll listen and read what they've written, and ultimately we'll make a decision on a junior or senior student that will then start, I think it's July, at the July board meeting. And then they'll serve one full term, and then next March, it'll start again and it'll just cycle through. So it's gonna be a great opportunity for a student that might be interested in that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Are you thinking, this is one thing I didn't catch, is it gonna be a new student every year, or if it's a junior, they could rerun and do it a second year? Or do you want it to just be limited to one?
They
school year?
could, it doesn't limit them from doing that, but again, the committee might make a decision to bring that person on, but they might also say we want a new voice and a new person on there.
So, open.
Yep.
Great.
So at the new business, we'll go through and we'll do that.
We saw that.
All right, that's it for my report. I'll go on here to,
Superintendent's agenda.
so recommend the board approval of the following donations and grants. So we had a lot of donations to some of the clubs that we have, that Rob had mentioned. Recommend board approval for the Piqua City School District for the 21-22 school calendar that we just talked about. Recommend board approval for the Piqua High School 21-22 program of studies, and the same thing for our junior high school. Recommend board approval of the attached list of library books from Piqua Central Intermediate for disposal and removal from the inventory of Piqua High School. A lot of outdated books that are worn and not worth of trying to save. Recommend board approval of the attached list of technology equipment for disposal and removal from the inventory of Piqua City Schools. Again, we always talk about how our technology department takes all the pieces and parts that they can save so that we can use those to repair other pieces, and then what's left over we will scrap. Recommend the board approval of the attached list of textbooks for disposal and removed from the inventory of Piqua City Schools. So our curriculum department has been working on that, looking at textbooks that are outdated and getting those out so we can make sure current materials in our students' hands. And recommending board approval of the enrollment of Marta Giacoba of Cittadella, Padova, Italy, at Piqua High School for the remainder of the 2021 school year as a foreign exchange student through ASSE, WH International Student Exchange Program. She's already here and ready to get going as soon as you approve her, and that's it.
Okay. Well, we need a motion to act on this.
So moved.
Okay, second, please.
Second.
Okay. Well, all in favor of approving the superintendent's agenda, do so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, personnel agenda.
Good
Mr.
news
Lyons.
is I'm not gonna read through all 55 items. One thing I wanted to point out, that most of this is the EPSL leave, that's the emergency sick leave. The other part of that is, they're not all from this past month. Some of them are in arrears because that's when we get the information or collect that information. But as soon as we get them, we put them in. So they kind of stack up a little bit. The other thing that I'd like to point out is number 47 on there. Susan Bollinger's planning to retire at the end of this year. She's a shining star over at the junior high. A lot of great energy, has been there for years. I know my kids both had her and loved her, and she will definitely be missed. And more to come from Jeff and his team as they get closer to her retirement. So, like I said, outside of that, not a lot of other things on the personnel agenda. Do you have any questions about personnel? Any? Thank you.
Okay. I think one important thing with all the names, thoughts and prayers to everybody out there. Because it's been a hard year, so I really hope everybody's just praying for everyone,
Do we have any services in place to check, to check on the teachers and see how they're doing, like their mental status with dealing with exponentially more than they probably ever dealt with, and kids who are, there's a lot of kids that aren't the same as they've been sad or they're down, and I think that can wear
It's a great question.
on the
Do you wanna talk
teachers,
about
and
what
we just
we're
wanna
doing?
make sure that our teachers' well-being is, I'm biased, of course, because my wife's a teacher, but we wanna make sure that they're taken care of and they're getting tended to as much as possible, so that they're at their best shape to take care of the
Yep,
students.
very good point.
We couldn't agree more. one of the focuses that we've had already this year is we've just got through some training with our administrative staff to be able to recognize warning signs within our staff and our students so that they have a sharper eye to that. But we also have an employee assistance program that we continuously put out information from, as well as we're getting some magnets with phone numbers on them again, but we're just trying to get that information so that if you needed a drop of a hat, you have that available. So we've lost one of our staff members in the past, and Dwayne and I had that conversation right away about this is never going to happen again if we can prevent it. And so we've implemented that, and we've really taken it seriously to make sure that we're doing everything we can to provide help and services to all of our staff members.
We continue to promote the Tri-County Board information, the
Yeah.
211 information.
Yes,
that you
I
know
was
from
gonna ask
United
about
Way. Tony and I make regular visits to administrators. We call them regularly and just say, how are you doing? Tonight, we had a really good ad team meeting, and we always start with those. How are you doing? What do you need? What can we do? I was at 3 different buildings today, and just always touching base and making sure that we're available to assist anytime we can.
Sean, who is the 211 number for? Or
It's for the, I mean, it's a help center through the United Way of Atlantic County.
anybody, any age?
Anybody, any age.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
That's a great option. There's a suicide hotline option as well. I mean, we definitely try to keep that out there because we're mindful of it.
The EAP is extremely user-friendly. I will say that. I've worked with some employees on accessing that. And it is, you make that contact, things start happening very quickly. So it's a good.
We pay for the first 6 visits, for sure, right out the gate, and then they will sort of determine from there where those individuals need to go and where they can get the best help from. So, I mean, it's something that we want to make sure that we can do everything we can to get them the right help. So it's similar to like 211, where they're going to direct them to
Right.
whatever that is, because it's not about just suicide. It can be financial issues. I mean, it runs the whole host and gamut of things that impact you at home, and it's for anybody who lives in that household. So it's not just for our employees, even though it's an employee assistance program. It really is for the entire family. It could be a child to a mother-in-law that's living with you to whatever it is. It covers everybody in the household that's living at that address.
I think more than ever, our staff has supported one another. There is no way we could have been open every day this year if it weren't for teachers supporting one another and staff jumping in and filling in. And we've had some principals that have had to be out, and staff members have stepped up and filled in gaps, and we've gone out and helped run buildings and do things. We've got administrators talking about getting their CDL license so we can take care of vans and buses when drivers aren't. I mean, we've done everything we can to fill in gaps and support one another, and we have not heard complaints. I mean, people are honestly, truly, really supporting. It's amazing. It's been a really, really good year, actually, to watch people do that.
I think it's Piqua family,
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
is.
It's the bright side of the situation.
Yes.
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. We've tried to put a lot of different things in there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, moving on here, old business.
Nothing old,
Okay.
new. There's some new
Do we
policies.
need to vote on that?
Yeah, we need a motion in a second. We didn't get, we
Kind of skid
We
right
got
off
off
the
the
topic,
topic,
we
yep,
did-
you're right.
Okay, well, need a motion to, well,
So moved.
personnel. Second, please.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the measure passes. Now we can go back to new business with the new first reads and whatever reads we have.
First reads, I'll do the first one, and Jeremy will follow up on those, but the first one really is about our student rep. It's a real simple, it just really gives the guidance on that and outlines it. Is there any questions that you had on that piece?
Yeah, we had to make policy on that.
Right.
All right, Jeremy?
The rest of the policies that are listed there, going back through again, trying to audit what we have in our board policy, we needed to switch our policies for health insurance over to a self-insured policy versus a fully funded policy. So all this is taking medical and prescription coverage and putting it in self-insured and leaving the other items as fully insured for now. If we eventually self-insured dental or vision or whatever, we'll need to do this again and move them from fully to self-insured. So that's all this is doing. Just take 6 policies to make it happen.
Okay, yep. Okay, well, need a motion to act on this.
We're just
Second? Okay,
Oh, just reading.
We're just
That's
reading,
right.
this is first read.
oh, okay. So we don't have to do, okay, good. Hearing of the public, non-agenda items, I have nothing, I don't even see anybody here, so that's good. Okay, so that takes us, let me step over here to page 24 here today. Okay, well, we're at that point of adjournment. We are going to be going into executive session, however, and we don't
Read the,
addendum. Wait, this is mine I brought with me.
We have a motion to go into executive session.
Yes, we will, yeah. Thank you, sir. Okay, executive session for the purpose of appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of employee, student, and/or official, and for discussion with board, legal counsel of disputes. This is kind of dropped out, I'm not sure of that word, involving the board that are the subject of pending or imminent court action as permitted under Ohio Revised Code 121.22. So we do not, though, anticipate any action. So may I have a motion to move into executive session? Second, okay, we have that. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we are in executive session.